Alright, we're going to do another video real quick to kind of get you guys up to speed. I'm going to try to be as quick as I can, but you know me, I apologize. It's March 21st, 2015, about 7:20 p.m. We're going to talk about finances, QuickBooks, the topic of discussion. Where's our money at? That's a good question. Even I'd like to know. So I want to give you some background. I want to tell you how we should be operating or are operating and what's the holdups. And I'm going to actually walk you through our QuickBooks system. So we're going to try to be as quick as we can. So the way we've got it set up is several years ago, we started using QuickBooks with the intent of centralizing everything. So when we sent it to, it was a system that we could use to send to our accountant when we do our annual 990 report, the report that's required by us every year to the IRS. I was under the impression that when we went to a system such as QuickBooks and we pay hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year for a system to manage our finances coming and going, we would just be able to, one, hit print on the report that we needed to generate based off the information that we entered throughout the year, and it would generate those reports and not need a CPA, but maybe once for something unusual that would come up or a particular question that we might have. That's not really been the case, and it's not turned out like I thought it would, but then again, not a whole lot does. So what's been happening is we pay for QuickBooks probably $1,000 or $700 a year every 2 years or something along those lines. We send the information from QuickBooks to our accountant that basically puts it in areas that's more efficient for them to produce our 990 in a less amount of time, because it's basically like a cut and paste type of thing. So when we do that, it reduces the time frame that they, as the accountant, would be spending on trying to compile this information. And what I've noticed is over the years, of instead of us getting more efficient, I would have thought the first year of us using this and really sitting down and kind of going through everything would have been our most costly year. That's not definitely been the case. It seems like every year, even while we're using QuickBooks, the cost for doing business and those type of services starting to increase. So I'm kind of at a loss there. And that's the part about the $700 from the CPA and just filing our quarterly reports, because I do that in about 30 minutes myself here. Even though that particular setting, it was two quarters of reports. So let's say it was 8 hours that they spent on it. I know it didn't take them all day to do. It's not bad, $795 for an all-day endeavor. We definitely got the wrong line of work, at least I did. So we set up QuickBooks. We have the capability for board members to remote in and look at and see that. There is a stipulation. The stipulation is we have one user's license. So basically what you would do, and we did buy a laptop for this, for the treasurer's position, and then our chairman had access to it. So if you had to remote in to look at it, in your sense, you would click on remote desktop connections. So let's say you was at home, and this is not the right IP address from an outside. It'd be qb.wcrescue.com. You type that in, you'd connect to it. You type in your user's name and password. For instance, we're going to type in administrator. Now what you're doing is you're logging into our server. And that kind of come up on this window. It looked like this. Get me out of the way. So this is the only server that we've got up and running right now. And really, it's our core server here because we don't have everything else online. Whether it be Deborah or the chairperson or whoever has access to it, that's how they would get in. Basically, they would be using one computer to remote into the computer here at the office. Then they would click on the icon that says QuickBooks. Now, what I'm going to do for efficiency, this is the server. I have it installed on my local PC that connects to that server as well. And we can do this. I can do this because we're in the same building. We're in the same network. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. But in a sense, just to kind of give you some background, that's how you guys from outside our network would get in. In my sense, I would just click on the same link that you guys would click on up there. Hold on. Where'd you go? And this would come up. So We have 3 users, but we only have 1 user license. What that means is only 1 user can be in the system at any one time. So if I'm in it doing some work and you guys try to log into it, you can't get in because I've got the company file locked out because I'm using it. There is options to increase the number of users. I think we can get 1 user all the way up to 3 users. On TechSoup, we can get that for probably $99 where 3 people can be in the same file and looking at it at the same time. It just hasn't been necessary right now. So Deborah has a login, Bob Might still has a login, I have a login, and then we have an administrator account which has a login. The administrator account is the one that Cornerstone would have on file in case something was to happen. They would be coming in as the administrator, and they have full access, full rights, that type of stuff. Typically, I use the administrator account because it allows the full functionality of the system versus if I give, let's say, another board member or another member that needs access to the system, I can deregulate the level of accessibility they have, meaning I can say, you know what, I want all the board members to be able to have access to it, or all the members or whatever, but I only want them to be allowed to view the information. And that way, if they log into it, they can't really mess anything up. So for the individuals that think, well, I'm not computer literate, even if you was to get in it, you couldn't effectively make any changes to anything in it that's going to mess anything up on our part. That type of thing. So I'm going to log in as the administrator. I'm going to make me a little small so I'm not taking up all the screen. Make that big. I go put me right here. Alright, so basically this is what I see. Now to put your mind at ease as much as I can without having those reports that we have not been getting for about 1.5 years, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail, but basically we've gotten to this point from a snowball effect. So about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago now, it's actually more like 1.5 years, I had left for about a month for whatever reason. Anyway, at that time, I was probably 2.5, 3 months behind on getting this information entered. I come back a month later, that put me another month behind. Anyway, it's a snowball effect. You kind of get where I'm going. So every day that I didn't get this updated for whatever reason, it was that much more. Then it got to the point where when I went to get the information from our financial institute, Monticello, they didn't have access to the data as far as a download version. So I had to manually key everything in because it passed, I think it was a 90-day or a 3-month. There's a certain date. After that date, they no longer keep it on their servers anymore. So I was like, dang, that's going to be a lot of work. And that's my fault. I get that. Now we're paying the consequences. But now we're going to be moving on. So what has happened is you can see the Monticello Banking Company account right here on the right. We're negative $37,000. You can also see our Monticello Prime Investment account. We have $76,000. That's the accounts at that particular time frame at other than the Monticello account, because what happens is when I process payroll, it still comes out of the Monticello bank account. So for 2 years, that number, the only number that's changing this is when I process payroll, it still takes out $700 every 2 weeks and it applies it to the Monticello banking account. Well, I've not been entering the deposits and the withdrawals for the last 1.5 years. It's in here, but it's not within that nice fancy spreadsheet that you guys like, and I'll show you that as well. But there is a number. So right now what we've done, I'm going to go into banking. I'm going to click on banking feeds. Now don't freak out. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to explain it. Right now we have 1,279 transactions that are waiting to be put in the chart of accounts. Basically, it's all the transactions that we've done up until whenever these numbers are. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to log in Let me do it like this. I'm going to log in right now, and I'm going to see if these numbers match. Technically, what should happen is this number right here should match the number in our bank account. If it does, that means everything has been entered into QuickBooks at some stage. So right now, we should have $5,566.50. That's what we should be showing right here. And you can see that it doesn't. Well, daggone it. Let's click on it and see what's going on. Something has come in today. Okay. Payroll, electronic, whatever. There's a $2 debit that hasn't been applied to. So, all right, our current balance. $5,568.50. $5,568.50. We're equal. We're good. Now we still got a long way to go. Now let me address the thing that's on your mind right now. $5,568.50. What the? We've got two deposits that have been applied to this. One of them being $2,500. That was one of the last settlements we did with Butch. We've got these checks here. And then I've got to enter today, do that process, and then another batch of about $1,900. So it's going to be, when these clear, we get 100% of that. We're probably going to be right about $11,000 in this account. So and we've got everything's been paid, so we're good. And I'll talk about Butch and fundraising probably in another opportunity. So now let's click on the transaction list. So these are the 1,279 transactions. These are all the payments in and out, the deposits that I've got to apply to. Here's one of the issues that I'm going to have to address. It's not a big problem, but it is moving forward. So I've got some information that we're not going to be waiting anymore. What I'm going to be doing today is Saturday, probably Sunday and Monday, I'm going to finish our chart of account. I'm going to send you guys an email. I'm going to say, hey, does this look good as far as our chart of accounts? I've done enough research. I can probably articulate that this is going to work. And see if you guys want to approve that. If you guys can approve that for me and you're comfortable with it, based off best practices that I've read about, done my research on, instead of me waiting on the Holland CPA or CPA whatever and getting charged another $6,000 when all this is done, let me just get it done. Let me get this information to Cliff. Let him go ahead and complete our 990 for this year. Because I feel confident that with the additions to our chart of accounts, which I'm going to go over, that will be good. One of the things that I've got to look at is how these things are listed. So, for instance, PayPal. We do a lot of business with PayPal, and it's because we do a lot of we don't buy through regular vendors as much as most people would, in terms of going down to Best Buy or in terms of going down to a store where you swipe a credit card type of thing. We do most of our buying online. It's just more efficient, it's more easy, and quite frankly, it usually has what we need. There's been many times we've gone to 4 or 5 stores here in Bowling Green and they just don't have it. Anymore, it's easier for me to get online, internet shop. I can have it here in 2 days just as well as anybody else locally can, and probably save a good 20 to 30% on retail items, and probably pay 5% in a lot of cases or less on the items total value online, or getting the item through like eBay or one of those type of natures. And I don't mind doing it. I do my research on the equipment that we need, the longevity, the life expectancy of it. I do my research on the buyer. We've never really been any issues other than one issue with a fire panel that we worked out and got a brand new one for pennies, literally pennies on the dollar. We did several years ago, we had a company come in and say, hey, this is what it's going to cost to put us a fire security system combination in. We was talking like almost $2,400 for the install and the commercial grade, all that stuff. And we're able to do that for like $400 now and get the same, if not better, equipment. I can assure you the installation is going to be a whole lot more professional. And I don't mean to belittle anybody. I'm just saying I take pride in what I do. I know, because this is I'm proud of this. I'm proud of what we've created. But back to this. PayPal. We can't have PayPal listed as this is who I gave the money to. And technically, that's correct. We paid, or PayPal withdrew money from our account to pay a vendor for services that we received or items we received. When we get audited, or if we get audited or whatever, what they need is where did that money go in the end. But because we have a middle party, and that's technically who we paid, that's how it shows up on our bank statements and things like that. Well, I understand how that can be a huge liability and a huge security risk. So what I do is I print off the original invoice, the bill of sale, and that's the information that I have to change. So even if we import that information directly from our financial institute into QuickBooks, it's just going to have that first company that withdrew that money. What you guys need to know, and what the auditors are going to want to know, is where did that money go and what did it go for? So you can see PayPal, 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 PayPal. Well, what if this right here, $170.03 PayPal, I decided to pay myself? I didn't, and I assure you that, and we've got the documentation to prove it. But what if? We was playing that game the other day. I thought it was pretty interesting. It's important for us to have the documentation in place so that there is no what ifs. That's where the money went to. Hell, you can call the guy. I like being able to work with companies that has a business address, that has a business number. It just so happens that they do business on eBay. They might not have a storefront, but they're a reputable company. A lot of people are doing that now because everything's going online, everything's going that way. And I want to I get that information all the time, every time. Some of them might not have that information, but I still get an email contact. I still get some form of a way that we can communicate to them. That needs to be associated with that particular purchase. So with that being said, you can kind of get an idea. Everything has been accounted for. You've seen that in, I just pulled up Monticello's account. Just look at all this. Even $15.85, it's not much for PayPal. And we'll just let it go at that. Well, that's just not the right thing to do. And in the long run, it's going to look bad on me as an administrator. It's going to look bad on you as a board of directors, and it's just not going to be transparent, and it's not something that I want to support. So I'm going to show you how we do that now. So there's where all the information is. I tell you what, let me finish up with this, and I'm going to probably break this up. That way you guys aren't. This is what the page looks like. We enter the purchase order. If we received it, if we issued a PO, we enter the bills. I have to enter a bill, and then I have to enter how it was paid. So basically, you would enter a bill. I would go in. I would either select a vendor. This is the vendor list that over the years that we have established and we have done business with before in the past. The good thing behind this is you don't have to put them in once, and they're already in there. You just select them from the list. So this is over the years of doing business and the members that we've done business with that we've issued funds against. So over the years, it does add up to several businesses, and you can see where I enter PayPal and I enter the end user where that money went to. Now, one thing that we're going to start when we start moving forward, I'm actually scanning all the receipts and associating it with that particular here we go, enter bills. So what I'll do is I'll select the vendor. Let's say it's A1 Solutions. It automatically puts that stuff in there. The reference number, I usually do the receipt invoice number, and or if it's like Walmart or something like that, it's like 40 characters long. I try to put something that is that identifies that particular receipt, not a date. What if we do 6 transactions at Walmart? I need to be able, other than using the dollar figure, to say something other than that. The memo is basically what it was. What did we spend $1,200 on? And I'm going to start getting a little bit lengthy in there. It's got to be extremely detailed, so when somebody pulls that up, there's no mistake. Okay, $1,900 for materials. Well, that don't tell me anything. Materials for what is what you're going to want to know. It's what I've got to put in there. So let's say it was for, no, 600 bucks. I would put what it is, and then in the memo, typically it would cut and paste this to here. I would attach the, if we got the bill, I would check that. Now here's what we haven't used in the past. It's called chart or classes. We had only 2 classes, and we're probably going to stick with it to a certain degree. Expense and income. So if this was an expense, typically it is when you put a bill in, you would list it as an expense, or if it was an income. So when I go into doing the deposits, I would click this is an income. And what that would do is that would produce an additional fancy report for you guys to see it against. So you go month by month, basically off one report, and that's how it pulls that information. It just looks at the number of expenses that we had this month versus the number of income, and that would get you saving clear. I want to make sure I do this right. That's not it. Sometimes you do click on the wrong thing. Maybe hurry and get back in here. Sorry. So that information is basically what it pulls to give you this company snapshot. So our income versus expense, and you can kind of see that right here. Income and expenses, unpaid, all that stuff, and it does produce some really nice reporting stuff, and we'll get back to using that. So that's basically how we enter the bill. I have to enter it, then in order for me to pay it, we would just click on pay bills. A list of everything that I just entered as far as those bills would come in after I enter it and enter the information. I would click, yep, pay that, and then I would take it out of the selected account. So whether it was Monticello or BB&T or the Prime Investment, and then it would pull it from those accounts. So we only have to do this with 1,200 items. It shouldn't take too long because it's already in the system. It's just really as we was waiting on how do we need to list that chart of accounts. So let me stop this here, and I'll create another video. That way I'm not too long-winded, and you guys can just at your leisure look at these to kind of get educated, self-educated, if you will, in what we do and how we track things. Let me kind of go over some other, not this, in general. Donations, this was the other things. We've got enter bills, pay bills, sales orders, create invoices, these type of things. Our donations, this is where we would put our donations, or if we had items that were donated, or checks, or things like that. So all those checks that we get, those 200-300 checks that we get a week in donations, technically somebody would need to be here keying all that stuff in. We would use that information. We would list the class that come out of, the amount that they donated, and that would be our customer base. And we, moving forward, could be able to send reminder emails or whatever. Hey, it's that time of year again. Would you like to donate again? That type of thing. If we got the initial information. Now we got some. I keep all the checks, and that's basically our customer base. But it's not in a form where it's going to be that user friendly to utilize right now. So that's just something that we haven't been doing that we're probably going to have to start looking at. That's going to increase a little bit on the workload, but it's just we need to have that for the audit. If an auditor comes in, they need to be able to say, you got $25 from this person, and who this person is. Record of deposits, this is where we would show our deposits, Monticello, and you can also go to the previous. This we would enter Mitchell's promotion, the settlement number, the income. That's how I put that class in, and that's how much we would put in. And this is the date, 7/17 of 2013. Looks like that was the last time we entered a deposit. So in 2013, yeah, we're getting there, year and a half over. So we'll get this caught up. That is save and close. The deposits, statement changes, payroll, reconcile. We do the reconciling is easy. Basically, we import the PDF, or we put basic information in from the bank statement, the end amounts, and then it'll go through there and you check off all the checks and purchases that you did, and it should equal zero. If it doesn't, there's been times for hours and hours that I've been in the system looking for 52 cents, and I'd have to pull up our register, and you guys know what I'm talking about here, and I'd have to manually go through our register. And basically, this is what the register looks like. Now, what you're going to see here in the Monticello account, the only thing that's been applied to our Monticello account for that time period, that year and a half or whatever, has been Quickbooks, and it has been the paychecks. $797. That's how much I get every 2 weeks. Right there it is. Now, there's sometimes you'll see here there's like three. Usually, a lot of times I don't pay myself regular. I'm not a big deal. I just didn't need to, or didn't have whatever. It's on me. But I have to go in there and pay myself 2 paychecks to get caught up in one day. But it looks like it's been in 1 day, but the dollar figure works out, and we changed the pay period. We don't change it. It's just applied to the pay period of this week, weeks of, or whatever. But you can see that's been the only thing in there up until here's 7/30. 2013, and then we start paying, Secretary of State, the liabilities, Anthem, Lowe's, what it's for. It came out of the new equipment. It was wooden hardware for shelves in the sonar trailer, electrical lights and hardware supplies for sonar trailer, fuel for vehicles, and this is basically the information that I've got to put in. Here's a fee, a check we paid Mitchell's Promotion on invoice. Invoice number 48 is basically saying it was for settlement number 48. Return checks, which we haven't been getting a whole lot of now. We get them. In order for me to get a return check and get that processed, I have to get a printable invoice from our bank that has the name of the individual of whose check it was, so I can pull it out of the settlement, so I can give that to Butch for us to get reimbursed on it. And we haven't been getting those like we need to be getting. There's been probably 4 or 5 times, and Deborah can tell you that I've been on the phone with bank, and we've been on the phone with the bank together saying, send me these. So let's get, however we're sending them to whoever, get that stuff transferred. I need to get that if I'm going to be continuing to do the book stuff, so I can go ahead and get that stuff paid. Because you got to think, when we do a settlement, we pay Butch for that check. It's implied that all the checks are good up until they're not. Then I have to say, you gave me a check for $25 that it didn't clear. We didn't get that money for. We paid him 60% of that check. So not only did we not get that money, we paid him for services we didn't even get. So he's getting kind of it's not his fault. This is 100% on us. I can't give him that without that information. So I'm not sure how many we're in lack of. He knows, and we're very much aware that there are some out there. We're just not quite sure how many. We're going to get that caught up. So that's basically how that works. The 30 cents, and let me talk about pay employees. So how I get paid is I log in. I go to Payroll Center, right here. Now what you're going to see is a bunch of overdue stuff. That actually has been paid. It's just not been applied in QuickBooks to make all those real fancy charts. So what will happen is if I want to pay an employee, I click on it. Now right now I have to process the payroll because I just got paid Friday. If I want to issue another paycheck, is in 11 days. So usually I have to process it by Wednesday. This thing will come up in Flash. I'll start schedule payroll. When I do that, it'll ask me if I want to download some stuff. I'm not going to do it. It brings this screen up. I say continue, process payroll, make sure the dates are good, and it's all automated. And it puts it in here, and that's basically all I do. It's time for me to process payroll. I do not mess with the liabilities that come out of my paycheck. I don't mess with anything else. That's all I do. And then once a year, we sync up with our accountant to make sure that whatever has transpired during me doing that is still balanced. I press that button a certain number of times to get a certain paycheck. The only difference that's happened is I haven't pressed that button, and sometimes I'll come in and it'll say right here, I'll have 2 paychecks that's owed to me, or 3 paychecks, or whatever. And that's what you'll see right here. So like right here, it says paycheck count 2, paycheck count 2, paycheck count 2. That's because I didn't get paid for a back paycheck or something like that, and I needed to process multiples. That was a concern of mine, talking with the accountant today, because I didn't want people to think that I double dipped on a particular month or a particular paycheck, and it just doesn't look good. So I'm gonna try to avoid that moving forward. It wasn't at the top of my list. So that's pretty much it. The file forms, when we do our taxes, all I have to do is, that's just downloading a new update. Click on forms. I don't want to create one. E-file. We want to start e-filing now. So instead of us, no, don't do that. You gotta watch that. Sometimes you do stuff you don't know what you're doing. Payroll liability forms, adjust payroll. I don't mess with any of that. There's a button in here that payroll tax payments, start paying electronically, which is something we need to talk about, because it's something we need to start doing instead of Deborah or whoever, us having to issue a bunch of checks. If we can go in here and click 3 buttons and hit pay them electronically, and it automatically pulls the form out of this and sends it to the state, that would be so much easier for me instead of having to print all this stuff out. Our tax stuff that we do every quarter, I have to go through all this stuff and make sure everything's balanced and print the forms, and this does make it a whole lot more efficient when you have to keep everything on file, that type of stuff, and it's not as bad as having to do it manually. It's not as good as we can be at doing it moving forward. So here's all the paychecks. I can print this out of all of them that I've ever been paid. So you can see right here, there's $2,040 for 2. Basically, there's 2 paychecks. I don't know why it says that. I don't see any others. We might need to look at that. It was December 31st. So that'd be a good thing to look at. So that's pretty much it on the payroll stuff. And again, you guys can have access to this, and I'll show you. So company, set up users and passwords. You want to set up user, ask for the admin account. Right now, these are the people that have accounts. They have the ability to log into it. A. Tucker, B. Myatt, Bob Myatt, Deborah Williams. I can come in, I can select, I can add 100 people to this thing, but only one person can be logged in right now. I can edit the user, your name, your password. If you forgot your password, let me know. We'll just reset it, no big deal. And then there is, okay, so this is where you would select, you can see all this other stuff, and you could change all this other stuff, and that's basically how we'd set it up. So it might not be a bad idea to let you guys start remoting in when you feel, hey, where'd our money go? We'll just remote into the system, log in using your credentials, and I can show you anytime you feel froggy and you're at home and you're bored and you just want to see what's going on. You can get in here and click it all away. That's how you would do it, though. So in a nutshell, I've already said it, and I know. I'm trying to see if there's any other features before we start getting into a more specific chart of accounts. I'm not going to do that in this video. File. So on the files, new utilities. We do a backup too, by the way. So when you do backup company, just so you're aware, we do online backups. Let's see how we're doing. So our online backup, last successful update was March 21st, 2015 at 3:12 this morning. So I've got it set up every day. This thing backs up not only to our local servers, but to the server in the data center that Intuit has. And that's part of this service that we get. And that was important for me for continuity of business, or something was to happen to this facility. We still have that. And we are looking at because we've done a lot of work to the facility, we're able to put data data applications and stuff, in another building. So the building that we have out back, it's got the garage door on it. we added additional plumbing to that building to run network cables with the intent to put a small backup server in that building out back to allow, if something was to happen to this building, a fire or whatever, everything backs up every night out physically outside of this building. Or if something, vice versa, if something was to happen to that building, we still got our data here. So we've got it at two independent facilities in case something was to happen, primarily a fire or something along those lines for whatever reason. And that's one of the primary reasons I like to get things, even though we have to keep them in paper form, I like to scan them in to the system and get them loaded up. That way we can archive them a whole lot easier. And moving forward, it's just going to be a whole lot more functional to get information, transfer information from staff to employees or from the department to the citizens, that type of thing. So that's the backup deal. We have a shipping thing set up, register, view, list. This is the chart of account stuff we're going to talk about, not in this video. I'm going to do a short section. Nonprofit stuff, this is where we'll set up our budget. Let's take a look at it now. Okay. So what's happened is we imported the nationally recognized chart of accounts for nonprofits, and that was basically right here, import nonprofit chart of accounts, and that's a recognized standard, and that added these things right here. So for rentals, which we don't do, they added these numbers. For program incomes, it added these numbers. It added a bunch of things in the way that it correlates to actual reports that are being generated. And that's one of the things that we're going over. These are the things that have zeros in them are the things that we just added because that's what we needed at the time and or wanted at the time. So what we're looking at is changing these. Instead of having Water Rescue 1, Water Rescue 2, Water Rescue 3, Water Rescue 4, is having one category of watercraft maintenance and putting $1 figure in watercraft maintenance. So instead of dealing it out for Water Rescue 1, as you have $500 in maintenance for watercrafts. For Watercraft 1, you have $500 in maintenance for Watercraft 2. It's general. We put $2,000 in watercraft maintenance, and then we still add under what was it? We still have Water Rescue 1 in there, and we still apply a dollar figure to that so we can generate a report on how much money we spent on Water Rescue 1. But we don't list Water Rescue 1 as a individual line item. It's more one step up, and that's where you focus on creating your budget. We can continue to do it this way. We would, I don't know. I'll show you what we got and what the recommendations are, and then you guys make a determination on where we want to move. And we'll do this week, and that way, hopefully before the next board meeting, I'll print this out. You guys can get it in detailed form, and you can come in with your questions and answers and the what the heck and why do we spend so much here? Because we're talking about a year and a half of reports that you guys need to get. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to print them all out to give you guys an opportunity to see exactly where every penny went. I don't care. That needs to be done that way. If anything, the Board of Directors' primary focus and function is the control, management, and insurance of our financial information. This information. If you want my 2 cents, that's where your focus needs to be primarily, is funding, money, making sure nobody's stealing the stuff, making sure it's going where you guys wanted it to go to. Now, there's some catch up we're going to have to do. There's going to have to be at some point a link. And most of that stuff we'll talk about. But that's it. So that's the chart of accounts. That's where it's listed. The tape that I'm going to do is a little bit more in depth because I need to explain why. You need to understand the concept behind why we're doing that, not just, we're going to do it because of this. You might not want to know that. It's important for me to get that to you. And it's got planning, budgets, general entries, mileage for companies that keep up with that stuff for mileage, taking off mileage for end-of-year taxes and stuff, sales orders, Statement changes, income tracker, lead vendors, employee. So this is the employee stuff. This is where we pay our liabilities or payroll services, manage the payroll cloud, which we don't do anything live online. This is all local in, and I really like that with our financials. Add employee stuff, payroll center, which is that thing I was just in. Here's the banking, write checks, order checks if we need. We can print checks from here. You can actually put a digital signature in here, and you would just go to the office supply store and get your stock of checks and throw it in the printer, and we don't have to buy checks anymore. It prints all that stuff on there if you need 2 signatures and everything. It can even print a digital signature on there if you want. Pretty neat. Not saying we need to use that. I'm just saying that's pretty cool. Loan manager, if we want to check out, if we needed to get a loan, interest rates, and that type of stuff. And then here's all the reporting. And I want to do a small section on that with you guys on the ability, what type of reports can you get? More so importantly, I really wouldn't mind you guys having you need to have the ability to get in here and see it at your leisure. That would be the way I would want you guys to go. Whether you choose that, that's on you, but you need to have that opportunity. Employee and payrolls, and these are just the reports. It can do inventory, and that was the big thing for about 2 months. You know, we're getting all this equipment and stuff in, so we buy something, right? We have to put it in here as a bill. It has been billed to us. We've received it. Why can't we also add inventory? It's got an inventory section in here. So let's say those computers we have. And apparently we don't have anything. We've never used this part. But you name, description, that type of stuff. Yeah, it's more data that we have to manually key in. It's not that much more because, I mean, we don't do 1,200 transactions a day. In every month, when I stayed on top of it, and we've been using this for 7 or 8 years, very efficient. Started getting some workload issues as far as, well, we've already been through there. Not that I work too much because I take off. We just haven't been keeping up with it, and then it started the snowball effect. Well, when we kept up with it, this maybe took 20 minutes a week. I would import the 20 transactions that we did or whatever for the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I'd make those small changes, and that's it. I was done. If I can get caught up, to maintain this is nothing. I just need to get caught up. You guys remember getting them, most of you guys do, getting them the reports constantly on time, and everything was good. So this is where we keep the inventory too that's associated with all that stuff that we've been purchasing. For depreciation, and that's something that we also, is listed in our charts of accounts, there are some things that we can depreciate. That's part of our total financial picture, if you will, to understand the equipment that we purchased and what we have, well, as far as our total assets and what our physical, we as a business, as a corporation, own. It gets depreciated, and you guys understand what depreciation is. They have to be able to do that. Well, in order for Cliff to get in there and really understand the depreciation, either I've got to send him a whole new individual spreadsheet or something, and he's got to spend all that much time. Why are we doing that? We can do that right here, and it's already in there. For the most part, everything that we own is pretty much depreciated out, except for like $3,000 or something like that. It's not much, because everything's old. It's, you know, our boats are 20-some years old, and we keep refurbishing them or reinvesting in them and that type of thing. And, you know, if any agency can get the life out of something, it's certainly us, and that's something we need to be proud of. It's certainly something that we could, and we have taken to physical court. Hey, we've got 30-year-old boats here, or 30-year-old motors on these boats that we've been messing with, and yeah, it's time to change them. And I remember when the, well, getting off track, the magistrate had to tow a rescue boat in. That was kind of embarrassing. But after that, we got new motors. Not from physical court, but we got a grant. And I was proud to say we got $36,000 to replace our motors at no cost to you guys. So at some point, they got to come to the table. It's got to be equal here to give and take. We've been giving and giving and giving, and they've been giving us $4,500 in the services that we've been providing and have done in the past, and will continue to do in the future. Our needs are constant. And anyway. charts of account or classes. This is the thing that we haven't been doing, and that's an additional thing that I was talking with the accountants about. That your classes is basically our divisions. So in our chart of account, we have it listed line item as the dive team, as the ground search and rescue team, as the that's how it's listed, and that's probably not the best way to do it. It can be done that way. You would list rope rescue team, and you would list it as a category. So when you would make a purchase at Lowe's or something, and it's for the dive team, and instead of putting it in the line item dive team, you would put it in a maintenance category that you guys allocated a funding account to, but you would associate that with the class of the dive team, and you can still generate a report based off that two information. The exact same way we can do it now. Actually, if we change, it'll be one step more. I'm not too much worried about that anymore. Let's get this stuff caught up and let's be done, so you guys got a better outlook of what's going on. I think that's probably one of the things that's created some of the whatever levels of animosity that we could have right now, is you not getting painted the picture financially where we're at, when that needs to be one of your primary focuses and abilities to see. So, and then you've got all these other things here, services, licenses. There's apps that you can use with this, and bank feeds, and vendors, and customers, and calendars. And I'm not going to get into all that stuff right now, but I wanted to kind of give you a brief overview. If anything, for my benefit, you don't even have to watch it, but all I can do is give you guys the opportunity to self-educate and let you know where we're at. And I think this is a good opportunity for us to do that, because you can see these at your own time, midnight or whatever, and it'll be able to generate some really nice reports for you guys. So that's all I've got. If you got any questions, let me know. I'm going to try to keep it 15 minutes. I know this one was kind of lengthy, because I wanted to kind of hit all the highlights. I'm going to do about a 15-minute or shorter video on the chart of accounts and the problems that we're running into, that we're not going to have that problem anymore. We're just going to come to a decision, and we're going to move on, because this does affect the budget and how the budget was laid out and approved at our first meeting and wherever. I can't change those charts of accounts. I can put them in the way that you guys set them up right now, and I'll do that. But understand, we will probably need to change them to reflect more adequately what they need to be reflecting, and that's what I need to get to you guys, for you guys to make that change. So we, you, me, us, I don't have to come back in here and do all this work again, moving them from one category to another. So it'll include all of last year, will be on the new chart of accounts, our last fiscal year, and all of this fiscal year will also be on our new chart of accounts, and all the data for the past 7 years will be maintained with the other chart of accounts. They won't be active, which means we can still generate the reports on it. We can still pull data. Well, 7 years ago, Butch gave us, $600,000 or whatever, and 4 years ago it was this much, and we still get to associate the data from day one to now. So that'll be good, and that's all I've got on this one. If you have any questions, email me. Thanks.